I am very excited to have this week's guest on for a collector interview. You are probably well aware of Brett from Stacking Slabs, whether it's been seeing him on Instagram or listening to his podcast. He has shared a wealth of knowledge and his experience in the hobby, and we sat down to have a chat about our views on the state of the hobby, how to make it better, and most importantly, some about his PC and some recent pickups. We span a lot of different topics. Fun conversation. Strap in. This is a fun one. Let's get right into it. Brett, thank you so much for squeezing me into your busy schedule. I know you've got a lot of stuff going on personally, professionally, card world. So, how you doing? What's new?
Jake, thanks for having me. Lots happening. I'm pumped to be on the show. I've been a fan of you and a fan of your channel ever since I've been back in the hobby. So it's an honor to be on and talk cards. You know, life is crazy. Just I'm sure mine's no different than most everyone out there. Just balancing the professional career and trying to start a company, and then content creation and collecting in the hobby, which I'm sure everyone can relate. Takes a lot of energy, and it's fun. And then my wife and I are expecting our first in October, so we're juggling a lot of balls over here at Stacking Slabs HQ. But I'm having fun, and I'm happy to be talking cards with you tonight.
Absolutely, yeah, and maybe when the little baby comes around, we can put together a little care package of cards, and
start them early.
Exactly. You never know what they might get into, right?
That's right.
So I think if anybody's watching this, they know your content. They've seen you, whether it's listening to your podcast regularly or seeing the clips that you put on Instagram. I mean, I am envious of your dedication, your schedule. It's like you have a routine. I remember I was talking to Lefko, and we were both saying that we're both envious of that. So I know that you've talked a little bit in your podcast about how professionally you create content. So I mean, tell me what's the difference for you creating content for your passion in your hobby and creating content professionally, or is it kind of a blurred line?
It's first of all, like, creating content to me is what I do for a living, and it is what I do for a passion project. But for me, I pick and I learn from each industry. So I'm focused in the technology space. So I work in startups, B2B marketing software specifically. Been doing that my whole career. Really, building out marketing programs, building brand, presenting value to businesses, and try to get them interested in whatever our solution is. And that's what I've been doing primarily throughout my career, and then pointing some of that skill set into what I do with Stacking Slabs in the hobby. It's really very similar. However, it's more B2C focus, right? Business to consumer, or hobby participant to hobby participant. And it's not that much different, because I think on the business to business side, the lines are really blurring, and businesses are that are selling to businesses are more operating, or the ones that are successful are more operating like B2C brands. So I learn from the professional career. I learn from what I do with Stacking Slabs, and I pick and choose small pieces and infuse them and see if they work in either side. So I'm always kind of testing. I think just as a marketer, that's what marketers do, is we test, we learn, and we experiment. But for me, and especially with Stacking Slabs, I think the opportunity that I saw was just this rapid change that was happening within the industry and within the hobby. And I was a participant early on. I left like many others and jumped right back in. And I had this passion and skill set towards content creation, and I felt you know what, like I can use some of these skills and point them at the hobby and just share what I'm learning as I hop back into this crazy hobby that we're all passionate about. And that's really what I've been doing with my platform, in my show. And so it's always, for me, it's always about learning and sharing what I'm learning and learning from others. And I think one of the things, I think, Jake, you do a great job of this. And I think most of the content creators that people enjoy in the hobby are focused on this, but it's not about you or the content creator, but it's about the hobby and the community, and thinking about pointing value constantly within the community. Like the more you do that, everyone wants to grow your account, grow your channel. Like the more organic growth you're going to get by staying consistent. And so like, that's my approach. And I don't view it as a job or an obligation. To me, it's fun, and it's an opportunity to always be learning and sharing along the way.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that you hit on there that really resonates with me, and I always try to keep a focus on, is I think sometimes people look at the content creators in the hobby as the experts. And, because we have a voice and we go out there and we share our knowledge, I think that sometimes we get labeled with that. And I mean, granted, we all have our expertise. I mean, there are certain things that I'll go to you for, or I'll go to Kyle or Chris or Josh or, countless other content creators. And there's some things that people go to me for, but I don't think that we're experts on everything. And I think that, like you said, we're always learning, and there's tons of stuff. I was just talking to one of my friends about, Topps USA cards from 2016. And, the Olympics are coming around, and now I'm learning about that stuff. And the Simone Biles was, quote unquote rookie card. And, there's so much in this hobby to know. No one person can know it all. And I think that's kind of what also feeds our desire to share what we know, because we're also trying to learn and get that knowledge from other people that are sharing what they know.
Yeah. And I think I agree, man. And I think to me, it's a red flag always if someone presents themselves as a hobby expert or an industry guru who is sharing, this knowledge and saying, do this or do that. We all know there are so many different segments within the hobby. There are so many different interests and lanes you can go down, and you go down and it's so deep. You keep going down deeper and finding more information. And that takes so much time. And, I value the opinions of the people who have been in the game for a long time and who have had the time to dig around, and I'll listen to them. But for me, it's when someone comes out and starts telling people what to do or how to do it because they are the subject knowledge expert holder in all of these lanes. Like that's where it kind of gets a little fishy to me. And I don't know. It's a topic that I feel very passionate about, because I think we all spend our time in presenting information and presenting our experiences that we just, as a hobby, like I think we get attracted to those channels or those creators that are honest and open and authentic. And I just encourage everyone, and I say this a lot, everyone's a content creator, like whether you know it or not. If you got an Instagram account, if you got a Twitter account, you're a content creator. So just stick to what you know and stay consistent with it,
Absolutely. I couldn't think of a better way to say it, because I mean it's really easy for somebody to, easy in a sense of mechanically easy to put a camera in front of their face or a microphone and hit record. It's not necessarily the easiest thing to get over that mental hurdle, but mechanically it's not hard.
That's right.
So one of the things that I find myself doing, I wonder if it's true for you too, is when I'm doing, some of the prep work for an episode or, looking into different things, that news topics, I find myself not only learning about new segments and new, cards that I want, but sometimes I find myself really getting influenced by purchasing. Have you found yourself, because of creating content in the hobby, changing some of your purchasing habits that might not have changed otherwise?
100%, man. And I will say I have, I feel like I've gotten over time, I've gotten more control over the situation. And I say control and it makes it sound like it's a bad thing, because it's not. But I think that one of the greatest hacks that we have as content creators that do shows and talk to people is that we get access to knowledge holders who are very passionate about specific things. So specific sets, specific cards, specific parallels. When we interact, we learn, and then it gets us to think, oh wow, like that is interesting. And I have looked at that before, but I've never really gone deep in looking at that. So I get influenced all the time by people that I'm interacting with, and that are on my shows. And for me, here's a perfect example. So if we want to jump into just cards specifically, like in basketball cards, I've had this quest of, I really, really like the Galactic Parallel from Revolution. And I like it for so many different reasons. One, because it aesthetically it's pleasing. And two, there's some scarcity around it. And for me in basketball cards, I like so many basketball players. Like I appreciate the league. I was just talking to you before we got on. I said, yeah, before I jumped on, I had my wife and I were watching the first half of the Nets and the Bucks game, and just looking at that game, I'm not a Bucks fan, but I like Giannis a lot. So collecting the Galactic Parallel allows me to collect a bunch of different players, and it's a card that I really appreciate and like. And to me, I originally saw that card, but it was talking with other people in the hobby about that set, reading old blowout posts about people trying to break down to figure out, since it's not serial numbered, how many there actually are, finding accounts like Mission Street Cards, who is on this mission to collect all of them in every year. And so you just get caught up in that. And like, I could, for as vast and as crazy as the hobby is, I literally could spend and dedicate all my time just on that pursuit of those parallels of players that I like. And so, yeah, long-winded way of answering your question to say, yes, it's dangerous. I appreciate people's opinions. I like to be influenced, but also I've gotten to the point right now where it's, hey, take a step back before you start purchasing things, and make sure that it's not like I'm infatuated or drunk off of this last conversation I had. Let it simmer a little bit and then go pursue.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, again, I think it was just this week. There was something that I don't know where I got the idea, but there was a card that I was looking at, and I threw it in my cart. It was a bin. I threw it in my cart on eBay, and then a day later I went back and I said, I don't need that. And I took it out. But there's a lot of times that I just hit the bin. I don't let it simmer, and then I end up getting it. My brother will give me a hard time all the time because I have so many duplicates, especially of Penny, in my collection. And it's one of those. I think I have this card. I'm not sure if I have this card. I'm pretty sure I need it. I'm going to get it. And then I get it and I go, oh, that's the third copy I have. Time to thin it out. So, and I've got like a box that's behind me hiding of all Penny duplicates. It's like, 60 Penny duplicates of inserts from the 90s, varying degrees of price from like anywhere from $5 to $200. But they're just, things I purchased by accident because I, didn't let it simmer.
Totally. And like, to speak about Penny and influence, like when I was in Dallas, I got to hang out with the card ladder team, and we all had our cards. We brought some cards, and I was Josh had brought his cards, and I was like, oh man, I wonder if he brought his big cards, and he did, and it was like, oh man, I get to see LeBron Exquisite RPA. I get to hold that, and that's cool. And then one of his other cards was the Penny Green PMG, and I had never seen one in person. And to hold that card, and of course, we're appreciators of PMG. I think anybody who enjoys basketball cards is, but to hold a green in hand, and like there'll be these moments where I'll be like in between meetings or sitting around things, I'm like, man, that green PMG. And so like I start to get itchy, and I'm like, if I wanted a green PMG, who would I get? And if that opportunity presented itself, what would I do to get there? And so again, it's influence, and I think that's one of the best parts about the hobby.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it's really interesting with those green PMGs because, I mean, they are striking when you see them in person. I remember, the first time I was offered a PMG I didn't have any, and it was a Terrell Brandon. It was a red, badly damaged, which is par for the course with PMGs. And because of the damage, the guy was giving me a bargain for it. And at that point in time, I was really honing in on just penny. I didn't want to, deviate and get into the 90s insert collection. I passed on it. And I've been kicking myself ever since because, not because the value's just gone up, but the value has gone up to the point where it's like, that's a card that would be harder to attain now for me. And it's just kind of, I wouldn't have sold it. It would have been PC. But what I've done is I've started trying to find some other sports PMGs, so football or baseball, because they have some similarities to the basketball ones. It's just like, it's an interesting dichotomy in pricing between the basketball and the football, especially because they look the exact same. But the serial numbering is different.
The serial number is different, and I'll touch on the football component, but I have to reference the Terrell Brandon. So I haven't heard his name in a while, but immediately when you said that, it like triggered Gund Arena in my head, and like watching him play. And I think that's a fun part about your channel, because you breathe life into these memories. But like a guy like that for us is pure nostalgia. So he might not be recognized as a Hall of Famer or one of these GOATs everyone's talking about, but he served a place in our memories as kids growing up. So you match, and I think that's a big reason why the PMGs are not only they're scarce, they're limited. The one thing people don't talk about, they look great. One thing people don't talk about often is that these guys were the guys that we were obsessed with, all of us as sports card fanatics growing up. And so you just go down the list of all the PMGs, and we know all the players and probably have memories of watching all those guys play, collecting their cards, being little, watching them on NBC, going to games. So that's the thought that triggered in my head when you said that name. But on the football side, I couldn't agree more. Like I've gone down that path, and I purchased a Marvin Harrison, being from Indianapolis. I got a DM from I always have to shout him out because he gave me a good lead, Sierra at California Card Collector. He just sent me the card, and he goes, hey, you can have the Marvin Harrison 8.5 BGS, or you can pay 3x the price of this for a raw Rod Strickland. So I was like, this is like, as a Colts fan and a Marvin Harrison apologist, just like, this is a no-brainer. So like, I immediately looked at the price of that card, and I was like, I got to do whatever I can to get this right now. And I'm glad I bought it when I did, because like, I'll see parallel players around Marvin that in the same grade or lower going for more than I purchased the Marvin. And it was just one of those things where it had just got listed, and I took immediate action on it. So I guess the punchline of that is nostalgia is great. Like, don't let it get in the way of what people are talking about. And then also like have hobby friends that are looking out for you and know what you like.
Absolutely. Have you gotten that Marvin in hand yet?
I have it. Yes, I should. Yeah, I did. I didn't bring it. All my cards are in my other room, but
That's
it's
right.
I have it. It's worth the hype. It's a top 3 card in my PC. So, and that's another thing that I just, anybody listening or watching, like, you look at these cards and they seem out of price, and you say, I can't afford this, and that. Like, for when I bought that card, I didn't necessarily have cash in hand for that card, but what I did was look at my PC and I said, if this card were in my PC right now, where would it rank? And I looked at my PC, and it was like a top 3 card. So it made the decision to say, I got to move on this, and I'll buy this, and then I'll sell whatever else would be ranked after this, because it doesn't matter. And so I haven't looked back, and I think that's just like something I've learned over the course of the last few years, is if you find something, like, ask yourself that question.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I have a Michael Irvin PMG that I recently got graded, and I'm going to bring that to National in case there's a card that would supplant it as being, higher in my PC, because I don't collect Marvin Harrison. I don't collect Michael Irvin. but I like the PMG, that's for sure. So
Yeah,
who knows what'll
and
happen?
how many fans does Dallas have, right? There's plenty of people that will want that
Absolutely,
card.
absolutely, yeah, yeah. But yours is a BGS 8.5. You said, right?
8.5, yeah. Yeah, and the football, just for anyone who's not aware, the football are out of 150.
Right.
So yeah, but then the other thing about football that I didn't realize until I started doing some further research is that in the 97 football class there are 30 Hall of Famers in that, which is insane. Like on the surface I was like, "Oh, there's probably 10." And then I started looking at it and there's over 30 Hall of Famers, which is wild, and I think we'll start to see the gap shrink a little bit in between football and basketball. I don't obviously ever think football will catch basketball, but the discrepancy right now is a little. It has me scratching my head and wanting to know, should I be making more moves right now?
I know, yeah, and well, so like the Michael Irvin that I have, mine's a PSA 7. I saw with PWCC they had a BGS 8, and it sold for right around 1,500. But like you were saying, if there was a Sean Bradley BGS 8, it wouldn't be going for 1,500. That's for sure. It wouldn't go for 1,500 even if it was raw. So, in Michael Irvin, just like Marvin Harrison, a lot of other guys are Hall of Famers in their sport. Sean Bradley, not so much. So.
Totally. We were Devin Currant on Instagram. He just actually posted it. He posted his. He's the winner of the Tim Duncan Green PMG on Golden Auction. He just posted it on his IG. I got a chance to eat dinner with him in Dallas. Bennett, for anyone who doesn't know, he knew Josh. He had been on Cardboard Chronicles. And this guy is just a passionate PMG collector. He went into the Dallas show before the show opened up and literally scoured the whole show to look for any PMGs available. And he actually found one, and it was a green. And I can't recall the price of what he paid, but I know it was a pretty penny, and it was a Rodney Rogers.
Yep. R.I.P.
R.I.P.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. I mean, those are just like a needle in a haystack, and it's always fun. Like I go to shows. I haven't gone to shows in a while, and Nashville will be the first one in a year. But it's so much fun when you find that card that you were. I went to the East Coast National, as they call it, in White Plains, New York, and I went in there, and I had one specific penny card that I was hoping I could find, and finding 90s basketball cards at a card show, not the easiest thing, let alone a penny, because usually when you find them, they're going to be Kobe and Jordan. And sure enough, I found a dealer that had it. The exact insert I was looking for, the maximum metal, which is not a very expensive card. And it was just like so gratifying to have found it. And then, I ended up working out a deal for it. So I can only imagine the thrill that he got just finding a PMG and then being able to work out a deal on top of it.
Totally. And I will say you're right about just from my Dallas experience, there was not a ton of 90s inserts and cool 90s cards in the showcases. But what I can tell you is in the lobby, meeting with people in the hobby, them having their collections with you, dude, I saw the craziest cards, stuff that you dream of, like Jordan Jambalayas, molten metals, PMGs. And when I was on the flight back from Dallas to Indy, I couldn't stop thinking about all of these grails, these hundreds of thousands and probably some cases $1 million cards that I got the chance to look at and hold. And it gives me goosebumps to think about it now. But again, it goes back to, I'm not sure I would have gotten that opportunity if I just walked into the Dallas card show and just didn't try to make connections and just walk the floor. But it was the relationships I had built through Instagram and through Stacking Slabs that allowed me to meet these people and then them say, "Hey, you want to take a look at my cards?" Of course I want to take a look at your cards. Let me check these badass cards out. So I think there's always, it always goes back to the relationships thing.
Yeah. And it's funny because we were talking a little bit before we got on camera. I was planning to go to the 2020 National, and COVID foiled those plans. But in preparation, and for those who don't, go through the preparation process with me when I'm planning out trips, I'm pretty meticulous, and people that are traveling with me tend to get a little exasperated by the end of it. But so one of the things I was doing is I was creating a spreadsheet with like a list of cards, a list of penny cards that I wanted to look for, and prices, and I'm looking at comps and all that kind of stuff, and going to have that in my phone, and I was really going to be going to National and hunting for penny cards to add to my PC. And over the last year, COVID, not being able to go to shows, listening to other collectors who have been and stuff like that, and I saw a post. I can't remember who the original poster was. I think Card Porn and the National both reposted it, but it was saying with the current market dynamics, are you? I can't remember exactly what it was. I'll show it on the screen, but it was something about with the current market dynamics. Are you excited, or what do you think the National is going to be like, or something like that? And I responded and I said, I'm excited regardless, because I'm just wanting to go and see the people, meet folks, interact with everybody in the hobby. And the cards are definitely like that glue that holds us all together. But I'm not going. If I come home without a new card in my PC, I will be okay. I'll be completely satisfied. And through meeting some people, like you're saying, maybe that'll actually get a new card. But if it doesn't, it's fine.
I couldn't agree more. I think it's about the people, and the added benefit is if you walk away with something you love. I actually heard something interesting in my Friday conversation. It drops tomorrow as we're recording this, but it'll already be dropped. But it's with @the_Iron_Sheik on Instagram, and he was talking about how he likes to organize deals ahead of the show, so that when he gets to the show, he already has the money, already has it figured out, and just meets the person and gets the deal done. And then it causes him not to go off and spend money on something that he doesn't really care about. So I was like, that actually is a pretty darn good strategy, because I'm a big fan of the pre-work and the pre-prep. It's like, all right, here are the people I'm going to go meet. Here's what I'm trying to do. But I had never thought about, oh, wow, maybe everyone's going to the National. We all have access to everyone's PC via Instagram. Like, hit these people up and say, hey, is there any way you're willing to move this? We'll both be in the same place. I thought that was pretty enlightening.
Yeah, definitely. And I had heard there was somebody I was talking to that did the same thing at Dallas, and it was kind of like a light bulb moment for me too. I was like, oh wow, that makes a lot of sense. So that's funny. We both kind of had heard the same thing from different folks. So there's tons of opportunities with just being able to get together in the same room with people. I think it's endless almost.
No doubt. It's being on offense instead of being on defense.
Yeah, that's a great way of thinking about it, for sure. So, with thinking about National and big shows, there have been a lot of new entrants to the hobby. And, folks, I think you're going to be going for your first time. I'm going to be going for my first time. But you've been to a large show in Dallas. So outside of just focusing on the people, what's a piece of advice that you could give folks going to either National or a large show for the first time?
Yeah, so I think my biggest piece of advice would be to give yourself a break. Don't feel like you need to do everything at once. It's going to be overwhelming. So make sure you get some you time. Like when I got into the Dallas show, it is just, there's everything. It's people, it's cards, it's everything. And I hadn't been around that many people in a long time because of the pandemic. And I did my first lap and I was like, I need to get some water and I need to just like sit outside and like collect my thoughts and make sure like I'm rested and I'm in a good place. And I like took like a 10-minute break, got on my phone, was like reset. And I was like, well, I did that. And I was like, all right, I'm ready to go. And then I was fine the rest of the time. So I would just give that advice. Is like, it's a lot. If you're going to the National for the first time, it's going to be a lot. Like Dallas was a lot for me, but it's so much fun. And you don't want to just, it's a marathon. You don't want to go all in all at once. So I would just say, take a breather, look out for yourself. because doing it in small chunks will probably lead to a better show and experience for you.
I like that. I will definitely take that advice for sure. I had actually heard, I think Ryan Card Collector 2, he did a couple of pre-shows before the 2019 National, and he said you will be overwhelmed. If it's your first time, doesn't matter how many times you've seen vlogs, you'll be overwhelmed. And he said, I've been here, I can't remember how many times, but number of years. And he said, I'm still overwhelmed every time I walk in. So if a seasoned veteran is telling you they're overwhelmed, I'm not going to be any different.
Yeah. And I would just say, like, he's someone that he's in the game 24/7, a lot of knowledge, a lot of insights. No one's more all in. So, I mean, I support him and his channel all day because he's someone, like, we're talking about influencers and learning from people. Like, I've learned a ton just from watching him. So shout out to Ryan and Card Collector 2, and just anyone who's obviously, I'm sure most people know, but I think he's one of the good voices, especially when it comes to shows and deals. Like, he's someone that everyone should be paying attention to.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I just saw he had a trade night, and he was talking about some of the stuff he got in his trade night. That one of the cards was a 97 metal insert of Derek Jeter. And as much knowledge, as many years as he's been in, he even has the humility to say, I don't know a ton about these 90s inserts. So if anybody knows a little bit more and can educate me, so going back to what we were saying at the beginning, nobody knows everything. And there's always something more for us to learn.
Totally. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So, like you were saying about taking some time for yourself, getting into a little bit more of the personal side, would you categorize yourself as more of an introvert or an extrovert?
I feel like, just on paper, I'm more of an extrovert just by what I do professionally. But there's like this piece of me that I like to be alone, and I like to be away from the action. And I like me time. And I think that's maybe like it's my place of peace, because I am I'm on 24/7. I'm on at work doing stuff like this, and it's all stuff I love. But there reaches a point where, with work, with Stacking Slabs, communicating, talking with people, marketing, it's like sometimes I just want to close everything out and just like chill. And part of that is like, I don't know, I think this is an important topic in the hobby, and I've tried to be an advocate for it because I just think it's important, is that there's so much passion in the hobby, but with that, there's a lot of negativity too. And negativity hits people in everybody in a different way. And I think, like, I've been someone to try to be like, hey, like, we're all in this for cars. We're all in this to, like, hang out and have fun. Like, don't let it impact you. Don't let it impact, like, your mental health specifically. So, like, I've tried to, like, be a voice and be an advocate to say, hey, like, before everything, like, make sure you're taking care of yourself. Because if you're not taking care of yourself and you're not taking care of, like, what's going on in your head, like, chances are you're probably not going to be a very pleasant person to the people in the hobby that you're interacting with. And, like, for me, like, brand, and I don't mean like brand like your logo, but like your brand, like when you're out of the room, what people are saying about you, like, that's such an important piece of the hobby, because trust, we all value trust, and we value trusting people with deals, trusting people to help us do certain things. So, like, that's just one piece of advice, or that's one thing that I just, myself personally, is like, I like the lights being on. I like talking, but I also have found, like, I need a little break in order to recharge. And that's just something over time I've learned about myself, and just taking a step back and making sure I get some time for myself, some time with my wife, and some time just to recharge. Cause if I don't do that, then I'm going to be a miserable person, and I probably won't be my best self when I'm in front of everybody.
Yeah, definitely. That makes a ton of sense. And I mean, you're right. There is a lot of negativity. I think this last year, us all kind of being cooped up in our house, and, some of us alone, some of us with just a couple people. we've had to just go online and interact socially, and sometimes the things that we're seeing aren't always the most positive things, and that might actually breed more negativity out of us. And I know, like for myself, even the 90s cards are a passion of mine, and one of the reasons why I started my channel is to just share the knowledge that I know and make sure that there's not misinformation out there. So there's a lot of times that I'll see misinformation and I get upset, and sometimes I have to take a step back and say, is it my place to correct that? And a lot of times it's not. And I found myself realizing that it's a lot more enjoyable to just be a cheerleader, and I don't have to be booing when my least favorite player's on the team, so to speak. I can really just be focusing on cheering when my favorite player is out there. So focusing on what you like and what's going to make you happy, I think is the key.
It is, and Jake, I've been there. We've all been there when you see someone say or do something that rubs you the wrong way, or if it's consistent activity and behavior. And two simple things that I've done that have really, really helped out. Number one, if someone's every time you see a post, if they're bringing you down, just unfollow them. Just unfollow them. You don't need to be following them. I've done that with people, and it makes it a lot better. Number two, if you feel the time that you need to respond, take a step back and sleep on it. And usually when you sleep on it, you wake up and you're like, you know what? I don't really care about this. It's just in that moment. And it's just social media. We all get caught up in that moment. We've got access to say something and we all react. And it's like the hobby. It's so many people. We've done it. It's like you instantly react and you go buy something. And then all of a sudden you're like, why did I do that? So patience. And that's one of the things that I've been working on is just taking a step back and taking a breather, unless it's a 97 Marvin PMG that's underpriced that I have to have right now. So that's just something I've definitely learned over the past year.
Yeah. Well, and I think one of the topics that you honed in on your most recent episode was, and you're gonna have to keep me honest on this, but you were talking a lot about interactions and how you can see when people are approaching things from a place of abundance. And it doesn't necessarily have to be monetary abundance or, physical goods, but sometimes I think it's the mental wellness abundance. And if you are in a good place in your headspace, a lot of times that can lead to you interacting differently.
Yeah, 100%. I think, I don't know. I just think trying to do whatever you can to take care of yourself first. And I say this with when we all got sent home and COVID was happening, the first thing I did before I jumped into working from home for the first day, I tried to think of what is my new plan or my new routine going to be, so I'm not going crazy. And one thing I just started to do every day, and literally have done it consistently every day, is that at noon or around noon every day, I'm going to eat lunch really quick. And after I eat lunch, I'm going to put on a hobby podcast and I'm going to go for a 30-minute walk. And getting away from the desk, getting away from Instagram, getting away from everything, not everything, because I am still listening to somebody's hobby content. Shout out, let's see here. Shout out Card Talk, shout out Wax Museum. Those are some of the shows that I'll listen to while I'm doing that. Shout out Crossover. But just that, being able to do that consistently, I respond better professionally and in the hobby when I just implement something little like that.
Yeah, definitely. That me time is crucial for a lot of us, and I think getting back to the introvert and extrovert conversation, knowing yourself, and what's going to help you, for some people it might be reading a book or, there's a lot of different things. And getting back to the hobby, I always say to people, and I remember on Sports Card Culture talking about the crossover and the card ladder team, they were saying something that I say all the time. And you're doing something wrong in the hobby if you're not having fun. So if you find yourself stressed out, figure out what's going to make you happy. If collecting Sean Bradley is going to make you happier than going after LeBron Grails, then do it and be happy.
Yeah, dude. I often say my hobby time is an escape, and it is like going on vacation. And it's on going on vacation each like out. Like if it's in 15 minutes, a half hour, it's like 15 minutes of vacation. And it's like when we're on vacation, we're supposed to be away and we're supposed to be enjoying it. Supposed to have our board shorts on, our sunglasses on, good weather, positive vibes. It's like, why, like, you don't want it to be raining and storming and that, like when you're on vacation. And so like when I see the negativity, I'm like, what, like really, like this is what you're doing? Like I'm on vacation here, so I don't want anything to do with that. So that's just like, as I've tried to make sense of it and how do I absorb it, like it's okay to be like, we're all negative at some point. Like it's not all hunky-dory, it's not all positivity, but just be mindful of how often you are projecting negativity, because like people get tired of it, and people don't want to listen to that all day. So I try to surround myself with people that are in it for the right reasons and are escaping and having fun.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, the cards are supposed to be an escape at the end of the day, and I mean, it's almost like it's eye candy for us. But there's so many different things it can hit on. The nostalgia, or I mean, one of the things I love that I heard Kiki talk about is when he's talking with a friend or somebody who might not get cards, he'll ask them, who's your favorite actor? What's your favorite movie? And he'll go and find a card, because he's got an expansive collection of, Sylvester Stallone or, Cinderella, and be like, here, take this. This is a card of, your favorite thing. And there's stuff out there that for every interest. I got some, when I was at the East Coast National, I got some packs of Lion King cards and Mickey Mouse cards for my wife and my daughter. And we're planning a Disney trip in a couple of years. And one of the things I thought is you can have the characters sign like a little autograph book. And I said, I'm going to bring these cards and the character can sign the cards. So there's so many different fun things to do in the hobby, and it doesn't always have to be, just about that chasing the clout as you see on social media sometimes.
Totally. And speaking of Lion King, so it's funny you reference Lion King. For that movie has like just a cultural impact on, I think, everybody. And I was actually thinking about Lion King this week, and I think Scar might be the number one Disney heel of all time, because I mean he's he murdered his brother. I mean, that guy, just the whole presentation, it's like he's high on the list. I'm not sure I don't know if there's another heel comp as strong as Scar right now. Yeah,
I mean, because the other one that comes to mind is Captain Hook, but I mean, he's not as bad by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, I feel as though, like, when I was a kid, people would talk about, the bad person as Captain Hook. And I feel like now, like, when I'm talking with my daughter and her cousins and stuff, they're always like, oh, don't be like Scar.
Dude, there was no food. Like, there was no food left. He killed the brother. Like, we all saw Pride Rock. It was destroyed. And then, thank God Simba came back to save it,
Yeah. And, I'm one of those people, my daughter loves Disney movies, and I couldn't be happier, because my wife and I, even before we had kids, would find ourselves sometimes being like, you want to watch Pocahontas tonight?
And they doesn't surprise me. Yeah, 90s basketball cards, it fits right in. Yeah. Right. But I don't know. That's like I think that's just a broader theme in general of just like the stuff we grew up on, like that stuff still matters. And like, again, like if Pocahontas was on TV, my wife was watching it when I got downstairs, like I would watch the whole thing because I haven't seen it in probably 5 years, and I think that's a fun part about reconnecting with our childhood.
Yeah. And speaking of influential movies, so soon the new Space Jam is going to be coming out. And we've seen some pictures. I think, we all have seen like the new jerseys and the new what do they call them now? The Goon Squad instead of the Monstars. Is that what the bad guys are?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, and like the LeBron shoes that are coming out and all that. So, are you still like opining for the old the '90s one, or are you really excited for the new one?
I mean, I'll always have an appreciation for the '90s one, not just because of MJ, but come on, that soundtrack was just killer, man. Everybody had the Space Jam CD.
Oh yeah,
So I'm excited to see what happens on just being a big music guy with the soundtrack. I'm excited about that. But I mean, I don't know how you could have anything negative to say unless you're just a complete LeBron hater. But there is no other person that could play the Jordan role in a Space Jam sequel than LeBron James. So I'm thrilled. I'm hoping that it'll pull some of those nostalgic vibes for me. And I'm just excited to see it. So like I have nothing but excitement. I'm not going to go play the Space Jam card game that I've heard a lot of people say, oh, let me go buy Space Jam. And there might be something there, but like I'm just going to sit back and enjoy the movie.
yeah, definitely. Well, you know, there's a lot of interesting things. I don't know how many. I've got a lot of packs of Space Jam cards. And you know, I probably 2-3 years ago, I was saying, hey, this is going to be a fun, you know, kind of nostalgic video that's going to come out, and I'll open some packs on the channel. And I don't know if you've looked, but those packs are going for I was buying them for like $1 a piece. They're not $1
What are they
a piece
now?
anymore. Like the last one I saw was selling. There's like 3 different versions of the packs, right? So they're selling for anywhere between $20 and $40 a piece. So
you should sell them.
That's exactly. I sat there and said, you know, you all know how much I love opening packs. I'm gonna keep a few of those to open and have a video, and I'm gonna sell the rest because it just doesn't make any sense. But it's also because, you know, there's no pennies in there. So, but if there's some new Space Jam packs with LeBron, I'll get those too, and I'll have fun. Well, I mean, if we have access to getting them at Target, maybe. But no. So the other thing that I was thinking about, I've been thinking about a post that I was going to make probably tomorrow. And it's funny you mentioned that there's a lot of LeBron hate out there, and a lot of people are cheering him losing. And I remember in the '90s, people were cheering against Jordan. He's a ball hog. People were cheering against Shaq. He's just big and fat and pushes people out of the way. And he's a bully, you know. And I learned as a kid rooting against Jordan because I was a Penny fan and my brother was a Jordan fan. That when he was gone, I was like, man, I missed out on something. You know, and we only get one shot at enjoying a great player, a generational talent. And I just think it's a waste of my time and my energy to hate on a great player. I mean, any player that's playing right now, I don't care who it is. I mean, I don't care for James Harden all that much, but when I watch him play, I'm enjoying what he's giving me. And I think it's just like, you only get one shot at greatness. Why hate on it when you can just enjoy it?
I'll tell you what's been the most therapeutic thing for me just on this wavelength is just, so being from Indianapolis, obviously massive Colts fan, massive Peyton Manning fan, and who's Peyton Manning's arch nemesis who took him out all the time? Tom Brady. So I just had this hatred. Maybe hatred is a strong word, but just like I despised Tom Brady for so long. And then, you know, when Brady left the Pats and went to the Bucks, I started listening to Peyton, and I'd be like, man, Peyton and Tom are like really good buddies. Like Tom can't be that bad of a guy. And then to watch what he did this year in the situation and win another Super Bowl with a new team, like going into that playoffs, I remember having a moment where I was like, let me just sit back and appreciate this guy for who he is. And I got on that roller coaster, and I wasn't like cheering for the Bucks to win and wanting Brady to win another one, but like I'll never forget watching the game against Green Bay. And sorry, any Packers fans that are out there, but
that's me.
He threw he threw 3 picks and he ended up still winning the game. And it's like, this guy, like, I can't hate on it anymore. I can't. So I think there's only so many living legends that we can watch and appreciate. And obviously Brady's one, obviously LeBron's one. It's like, it's just better to take a step back, and you don't need to believe everything that they're saying, or you don't need to align with all their beliefs, whatever. Like, watch their on the field or on the court play, and just it's way more fun and way more positive to just appreciate it.
Yep. Absolutely. I mean, yeah, and like you said, you and I might have different belief systems and values that are core to us, but we focus on what brings us together, right? We're not going to sit here and talk about, hey, what do you think about this political policy? You know, right. It doesn't bring us together. Like,
no.
Does it really impact me? No. But cards do. so focus on that, you know?
Absolutely.
Well, hey, I know that you've got some preparations for a little one coming. I want to make sure that you've got plenty of time this evening and some time to recharge your batteries. So I really appreciate you squeezing it in. But before we close out, I always like to ask a guest if they would like to ask the question of the day. So, you got anything for us?
Question of the day. So my question of the day, let's go NBA playoffs related. Who is going to be the finals MVP?
Ooh, I like that. Wow. Getting down to not only who are the teams, but who's going to be the best performer on that team. Because, I mean, like, I think the Nets are going to be in it. But let's just say the Nets get to the finals and win. I mean, there's not a clear-cut answer with who would be the MVP. You know, if the Clippers made it, you know, we all think that Kawhi would probably get it, but maybe it's Paul George. I mean, if they get it, Paul George is going to have to play better. So that's a good one. I like that. You got any front runners in your mind?
So, man, I think so. If I'm walking through it right now, I think it's really hard to say Brooklyn is not going to be in it. So I'm going to put Brooklyn in it. And then the Clippers, I think, are the best team in the West right now. However, I really like the story of the Utah Jazz this year and what they've done. So I'm just going to go out on a limb. I like the Suns too. I like the Suns. I like Chris Paul a lot, but I'm just going to say the 1 seed they're going to make, I'm going to say it's going to be the Jazz. I'm going to say it's going to be the Nets. And man, that's a hell of a series. I've not thought about it. Unfortunately, I think, and I'm sorry, all you Brooklyn fans out there, I'm not trying to hate, but I think Brooklyn probably wins. And I'm going to say it's Kevin Durant. I just got to do it. I'm going to say Kevin Durant. What do you think, Jake? I
mean, that feels like a chalk pick, but I think it might be right. I'm going to go with my heart. I really like the Suns also. I think they're a fun team, and I just want to see them catch fire. Suns, fire, you know.
The Valley.
I really like Devin Booker. I've liked him. My wife is a Kentucky fan. And when he came in the draft, she was like, this young guy's going to be good. And I was like, you think so? And she's like, I think he's going to be really good. And he's been really good. So I'm going to say it's going to go Nets, Suns, and the Suns are going to win by a miracle. It's going to go 7. And Booker's going to be putting up 50 points in the game.
I hope you're right and I'm wrong, my friend.
I mean, it'd be quite a fun ride if they did. You know, and it really pulls at my heartstrings because growing up, obviously a Magic fan, but my number 2 team because of Iverson was the Sixers. I want them to win. I want Ben Simmons to be good. He's just not.
It's tough. They're just a funny team. I could see that, like, they can beat anybody, but like it's something about them like has everyone lacking a little bit of confidence. But you know, when they're on, they're they're a terror. So
Mm-hmm.
this is what I can tell you. When you don't have LeBron in the picture, the field just opens up, so it's more open than ever, and that's what I'm enjoying watching the playoffs right now. I would be enjoying it if LeBron was playing, but I think the level of uncertainty is an all-time high, and it's good for basketball fans.
Absolutely. Gotta love seeing new teams win. All right. Appreciate it. Appreciate your time. Appreciate your thoughts on the hobby, as always.
Yeah, Jake, thanks so much for having me on. Keep up the good work. Love your channel, and hope to talk to you soon.
Definitely. Thanks, brother.
That was a blast. Brett and I could have talked for hours, as is typical with sitting down and talking to a passionate collector. So thank you, Brett. Had a great time. So you heard the question of the day. So leave your thoughts down in the comments below. And next week, I've got a fun live stream coming. So stay tuned for more about that. But it'll be a fun panel of guests, and that will be a live conversation. So get ready for that one. And as always, thanks for joining me. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. Hit that bell icon so you don't miss any videos in the future. New content like this, pack openings, collector interviews, looks into my PC, and so much more, always dropping on Wednesdays. Any bonus content will drop on Fridays. Thanks. We'll talk later.